involved with the People's Library here for a while?
I have. I've been here a little over 6 weeks now.
Wow. Every day?
Every day. Yeah. I live in the park, or I used to live in the park, sleep in the park every night. I camp with the books in the library and help to develop the collection and cataloging books and making sure they were safe and dry.
Is the catalog still available?
Oh yeah, you can get to it at our website.
Oh yeah, you have a great website.
peopleslibrary.wordpress.com.
Right.
There's a tab there to the catalog itself, which is online, and we use the Library Thing software that was donated to us.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
And were you around when the big raid happened and the library was confiscated? Were you here?
I was nearby. I was that night. I had actually gone to the Met to see an opera. A friend of mine plays in the orchestra. Got me a ticket to see something up there. So I went up there and I was on my way back, and I made it back 5 or 10 minutes after they cordoned off the park, and I couldn't get in. So I was watching from across the street, and then I was part of the groups of people who were pushed back 4 blocks away from the park as they were just beginning the eviction itself. So
that must have been a really painful and frustrating moment.
It was. I mean, my own personal stuff was here in the library, all my clothes, my bags, sleeping bag, and that kind of stuff. That was all thrown in the garbage with sanitation. I was really lucky, fortunately, to get back 2 of my bags.
How did that happen?
I went to sanitation and I got them there. Actually, a couple of librarians discovered them while they were looking for books.
Wow.
And they told me about it. I went, picked it up. But it's really quite a chaotic scene over in sanitation where you have to dig around through a lot of crap to find your stuff, and it's not pretty.
And so now what do we have? New donations?
These are all new donations. That's right. Oh wow! Thank you for doing that. These are all new donations, and they'll need to be sort of cataloged and stamped and everything like that.
So every day you have to bring this back in?
Yeah, I mean, it's been different from day to day, depending on what they change the rules of the park pretty arbitrarily, and every day is sort of different in terms of what we're allowed to bring in. They told us last night that we couldn't have them this way.
I know they did.
Okay.
Isn't that obnoxious? It's a library.
But they said we could have them in the bins.
Yeah, but people can't look at them in the bins.
They do, but yeah. All right, I just wanted to let you know. That's all. They change the rules every day.
They change the rules every day.
Yeah.
If it's up to me to keep up with the NYPD and Brookfield security rules, I would spend all my time doing that.
Just as long as you know that you're prepared.
I want to see that book, The End of America, Naomi Wolf. Look at that.
Yeah, she gave a talk here on Wednesday during the day. Yeah, in the rain, in the pouring rain.
And donated some of her books?
I don't know if she donated that, but we haven't stamped this one, have we?
No, I think you need to.
We've had a few nights we've kept the books in here all night long. The problem is they don't let you lay down or fall asleep in the park, so we have to stay up all night long to watch the books. And if we leave, if we stand up and walk away, the new security force in the park now will come and confiscate the books and throw them away. They've been already, we had a collection, the first new version of the People's Library was created the day after the eviction, or actually the day of. At 6 p.m. on Tuesday, they allowed us back in the park, and we asked artists, writers, and friends of the library and supporters of the occupation to come down at 6 p.m. with books for the library. And so we were actually, of all the working groups in Occupy Wall Street, we were the first working group to be back in the park with a presence in the park. And we set that up at 6 p.m. on Tuesday. And I stayed up personally all night long with the books to ensure that they were safe. I didn't sleep at all that night. And the next day, we had about 100 to 200 books there. People were borrowing books and donating books just like normal. But then on Wednesday night at 7:30, the NYPD came in and down, and they made a human barricade in front of the books of that collection. And then they brought out 2 big trash bins, and they came and they threw all the books out again. An officer They said that they weren't allowed in the park, so an officer stood up with a bullhorn and said, "If these are your books, come and collect them now." And nobody did because we wanted to see, what was going to happen. We had our cameras ready. We got the whole thing documented, and they just trashed the entire library a second time.
Thank you, Mayor Bloomberg, for your kind support of the People's Library.
Oh, good. I'm glad you brought samples of the...
Mary Shelley, Frankenstein, too. Very appropriate.
Good that you got this one back.
Oh yeah, Fahrenheit 451, half destroyed.
And as they were wheeling out the trash bins with the books in them, a gentleman came up out of the crowd with a Joan Didion book in his hand, slouching towards Bethlehem. And he said, okay, here's the next donation. So we quickly made up a little sign on a piece of paper that said the People's Library, and we sat down on the bench with the Joan Didion book, and that was the new People's Library. So this People's Library can exist with only one book. It can exist with, and over the course of that night, Wednesday night, about 12 more books got donated. So we had a very small collection. And then the next day, Thursday, for the action, we got some more donations, and we went out on all the various actions with these mobile carts, like these little push carts filled with books. Some of them were from our storage facility that we reloaded up with, and then we had signs, and we were out in the streets with yelling out the People's Library 3.0 mobile and in the streets. And we were with the actions. We followed the march. We marched from Union Square with the marchers down to Foley Square, and then we crossed the Brooklyn Bridge, and we set up some of our libraries on the Brooklyn Bridge.
On Thursday?
Thursday night.
Yeah. And so every night somebody comes and sleeps or doesn't sleep here with them?
Well, we can't not sleep here with them. We can't really sleep here at all, but we can't leave them unattended. So what we did last night is we just put them up in a bin and carried the bin away and stored it somewhere else off-site. And I just brought it back myself today around noon. So
you're doing great work.
Thank you.
What do you feel is the best thing that came out so far of the People's Library?
I think what's come out of it so far, I think, is a number of things. But one thing in particular is the idea that what we're promoting here is the values of educational values, cultural values that should be open and available to everybody. So the idea of free access to information, free access to literacy and knowledge. These are books that are written by the people, they're for the people, they belong to the people, and there should not be limitations or restrictions on how they're used or how long people borrow them for. So we work on an honor system. If people borrow books, we trust that they'll eventually bring it back, but they don't have to, and we don't really mind if they want to keep the book.
How many people are involved with the People's Library?
There's a group of, maybe a core group of about 10 of us librarians, and then there's about another group of 10 or 15 more who volunteer occasionally here and there.
Right. And do you have teach-ins based on any of the stuff in the books?
We have teach-ins from authors who've come down, and like Michael Zweig, the economist from Stony Brook, was here the day of the eviction, and he did a teach-in, and he donated a couple sets of galleys of next edition of his book, and he dedicated them to the library. So it works kind of in that direction. The author comes down, gives a talk, and then donates the books. Chris Hedges, for example, donated a bunch of his books. Jonathan Lethem donated some of his books and gave a talk. So it sort of works.
And do you guys organize that? Like, do they get in touch with you and they say, we'd like to come down?
Yeah.
When would be a good time?
Exactly. Either that way, or we contact them and we ask them if they'd be interested, or if they come and visit the library. This is what happened with Michael Zweig. You know, he's visiting the park, and I know him from elsewhere, and so I invited him to come and do a talk and everything. It was just a real success.